Thankful of everybody that's made the effort to come. And you know, it takes, you have to leave to worship the Lord. You have to leave sometimes things you want to do and desire to just come to His house and do His will. And that ain't always pleasing. I made a comment back in the spring, maybe, might have been during tent meeting we have up toward home there, and I made the mention that preachers don't always want to go to church. Sometimes you get tired and you get weary, and you just, there's times that I've maybe had meetings going on around me, sister churches, and I felt a nudge to go just to try to help and support, you know. But the man in me said, well, you've been going in revivals. Won't you just stay home and rest tonight? And sometimes I give in to the man. I give in to the flesh. And so it's. I think, I can't remember which writer, I want to say Paul, but that don't hardly seem right. But he said, in other words, the flesh or the natural man, it lusteth to envy. In other words, it wars against that inward man. There's always that, maybe not with you, maybe it's different with maybe it's just me, and I've got more issues than most other people maybe, but it seems like you're always fighting that battle with the flesh. You're wanting, and I'm not necessarily saying do something bad. It's just not doing what the Lord wants you to do. You don't have to go out and kill somebody or run around with somebody's wife or steal, rob a bank or whatever. You don't have to do something like that to displease God. And sometimes we just, we let the flesh, we let the flesh get in the way. But I'm thankful, and I got to get a little nap this afternoon and got to rest up a little, and I'm thankful for that. But I seemed like I was looking forward to coming this way, and I don't know tonight what the Lord's got in store for us. I know some folks may be thinking this, well, this may be the last night of meeting, won't have to listen to him no more and all that stuff, and I understand that. But I've got a duty. Someday I'll stand before God. And if I don't give you what He's given me, that'll be on me. So I want to, if this is the last night, and I'm not saying it is or it ain't, all I'm saying is you've called me to help you, and it's my duty to give you everything the Lord gives me. And leave that with you, not take it back to Monroe County and think, well, Lord, I don't know, I didn't think that was hardly right tonight, or I didn't think that was appropriate, and I just thought maybe I ought to go some other. But just, I want to be sure that I leave you. And I got home last night, and of course it was past my bedtime. and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying that there again, the flesh gets used to certain times, and you have to readjust sometimes when things change. But it's past my bedtime, and I don't know about you. I'm just going to, I'll get to the scripture in a minute. But when I'm tired, I ain't like my wife. Now, my wife can't, she's got to wind down and go through all that process of trying to get her mind clear. Now, not me. No. I get in when I hit the bed, and I'm trying to get there as quick as I can when I get in. And when I hit the bed, within about 5 minutes, I'm out. And I'm gone, and till the next morning, most generally. But I laid down, and I usually just, when I lay in the bed there at night, and I first head hits the pillow, my thought is usually, thank you, Lord, for another day that you've given me to whether it was a Sunday to worship, or whether it's a revival, or whether it's just a good day at home with family and being able to work even. And I did that, and I closed my eyes. And the Lord brought some scripture to my heart. And I thought, Lord, I'll remember that. And in the morning, I'll get up and study on that in a little. And he was like, you better just rouse back up and look at this. I'm giving this to you. And like a child sometimes, you might not be that way, but you know how when you are adamant with your children and they're like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, or I'll do that when we get back. And you're like, no, you're going to do that now. And you know how the eyes roll and you get that. That's sort of, that pillow felt so good. And that was sort of where I was. And somebody said, but you're a preacher. I'm flesh. I'm just being honest with you. But I thought, Lord, just another 2 or 3 minutes, I'd have probably been gone. Just let me. Like, you need to look at this now. And it's a very common scripture. I know, and again, it may not be what a lot of people think at this part of the meeting, but maybe somebody here tonight's lost that ain't never thought about what is ahead and what is a coming, or somebody that don't know, or somebody that is saved ain't never thought about maybe the seriousness of our work that the Lord's give us as God's people to labor and to compel folks to find the Lord before that it is too late. But very familiar, Matthew 25. I don't know what the brother preached this morning, and if it's the same message, then there's no doubt, is there? There's a reason. There's no doubt. But the Lord's talking again about he's given some examples of the kingdom, some examples of about what's going to happen at the end. And then Matthew 25, verse 31 is where we'll start reading. Very familiar. This is all red letters. Jesus is doing the talking. Verse 31, Matthew 25. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations. And he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. And to those on the left, and verse 41 says this, Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. And that's the thought the Lord pressed on my heart there, the separation. That's the thought. Somebody said, when I preach her, that's a sad thought. And I think again, that old song, and I think the title of it is maybe There's a Great Day Coming. And I thought, we sometimes we don't like to think about being separated. My wife loves to travel, and I don't. And lots of times she'll have buddies that she will go on these women trips with, I call them, And I have no issue with that as long as I don't have to go. And as she goes, she always, and you just bear with me here, but she'll always, it's almost like I'm a little kid and I can't, so she's got to prepare everything for me and make sure I've got everything, I've got food, plenty of food. She'll cook and she'll leave all this in there and she'll prepare everything out. And just like I can't fix nothing, And that's fine, and you can tell I've preached this before, but I love her for that. That's not the problem. But I'm saying this, and I'm glad she gets to go and enjoy. But She'll be gone maybe a day. I believe Brother Brad mentioned this maybe the other night when he would be gone. But she's gone for maybe a day, and I'm okay, and maybe two, and I'm okay. But about on that third day for me, I'm beginning to thinking, I sort of miss her being around. And we're separated. We could get back together, but it would be maybe a few hours before that I could get to her or she could get to me. And it's somehow or another, it just brings, and I know this may seem strange to you, but marriage is a bond. It brings two folks into a unity of one. And when you stay apart, boy, it feels like, that bond is still a drawing you together. That bond, it may get stretched in the distance, but there's a bond that's a pulling you back together. And I thought the separation that's a coming for those that are lost to those that are saved. And it's not a temporary, it's not a 2 or 3 day separation. It is an eternal separation. It is forever and ever. And maybe I've mentioned this here before, I ain't sure, but when I was a young highway inspector and a young preacher, and I would take my lunch and eat in the truck and have my Bible, and I'd be studying, and then you'd be on different projects, and sometimes the property owners would get used to you being in a certain place, Eaton or whatever. And I had a man that was a very wealthy man, prominent man in Monroe County before I lived there, and I didn't think a whole lot of him at first, but we got to know one another, and we sort of formed a relationship, and I considered him a friend. And he come around one day where I was eating lunch, and I'd done eating, I was reading my Bible, and like I say, I was probably not much over 20, probably 21 or 22 year old. He was probably at that time in his 50s, and he caught me, and I didn't want to be, I thought, well, I don't want to, so I closed my Bible and just sort of laid it there in the truck. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I was just studying a little. I think I was possibly in a revival. And he said, oh, studying the good book. Yes, I was reading my Bible. And he said, I've been thinking about that a little more, and I'm not sure even what he was raised, to be honest with you. But he said, I got to thinking, if a man had a family in a house and that house caught on fire, he said, if you had to, you could run in there and withstand those flames for just a moment or two at a time and try to get some of your family out. And he said, just something real quick for a little while, you could stand that if you thought you was going to save one of your family members. But he said that flame that you talk about and that Bible talks about, he said there ain't no getting out of that, is there? And I said, no, sir. If a man dies without the Lord, there is no escape. There is no way out. And I'm not here tonight, and I may not preach but just a few minutes, but maybe there's somebody here that ain't thought about the separation. And not only, listen, friend, you may think that it's sad I used my wife, and you may think it's sad to leave my loved ones, but that's not going to be the worst part. The worst part is you're separated from a holy and a just God forever. You see, you still get the benefits of God's mercy even today. Even if you're a lost sinner, you get the benefits of His. You're breathing, you're walking, you're talking. You get the benefits of His mercy. Even you may think all the things that you're able to do and able to enjoy are just by your own means, but they are not. And you may think tonight, preacher, you're not going to buy. Listen, I'm not here tonight to bother you. I'm here to preach the word to you and hope and pray that God will send it to your heart. And listen, this is what I think it's in the Acts of the Apostle maybe. Peter said, he said, for in him. That might be a little bit above maybe or below where I read the other night. But it says, for in him we live and we move and we have our being. In other words, we couldn't even do a thing. That old song that says, I can't even walk without him holding my hand is so true tonight. There's not a thing we could do within ourselves. Did you ever, and I'm not a big anatomy person, but sometimes I go to the doctors, if you go to the doctor, and I've had to take Mom some, and whatever kind of doctor you're going to, they'll have, if it's a bone doctor or whatever, tendon, ligament, whatever they call them, I get all them things mixed up. But they'll have sometimes pictures of maybe from the knee down, and they'll show you which muscles, which tendons, which ligaments, which bones. If it's ear or eyes, they have pictures of showing you all of these, how all that's made in there. That stuff we don't see, we don't think about until something goes wrong with it. And we don't know what it is that's wrong. We just know something's wrong. So we go to somebody that we're hoping and praying knows what it is. But if you look at all of the details of the human body and how God put it together, and I don't know about a human body, but I don't want this to sound, I've field dressed lots of animals. And I've deboned lots of meat. I used to work at a slaughterhouse. So I've deboned lots of meat and and you realize, a lot of people don't realize this. You don't have to have a saw to quarter out an animal. Every joint, you can take a knife with a decent sharp blade on it and you can de-joint that animal without a saw. And when you look at how every joint is formed and put together, and then held together with those tendons and ligaments and all that stuff and the muscles, it's amazing to me. Even the animals that the Lord made, it just amazes me. And you may say, preacher, why? The very God that we're serving tonight created that. And he put all of that together, and all of the retina and all of that. I want to say cornea, but that don't sound right. Whatever that other piece is in your eye. But all of that stuff in there that we just take for granted, that just seeing stuff is just something that we normally always do. But you realize when we read about folks in that book right there that was born blind, never did see, never saw anything. And then Jesus come by and touched them or anointed their eyes or spoke to them and they was made to see. And can you imagine what a new life that would be? But my friend, what I'm telling you is we get to enjoy all of those things. Even the wicked folks that don't believe in God get to enjoy. They get to go to the lake and enjoy the water and the outdoors just like the saved folks do. And you may think it's no big deal to be separated from a holy and just God and his mercy, but I'm telling you what, when that day comes, when the separation day comes, and it is a coming, and the Bible said he'd gather all nations of the earth, he's going to come with his holy angels in his glory. And he's going to sit on the throne of his glory, and all nations of the earth are going to be gathered before him, and he shall separate them as a shepherd divides the sheep from the goat. There are more sheep now. Brother Brad mentioned that maybe last night up in my country probably than there ever been. And people say there's good money in them now. I don't know about all that. And I don't know nothing about sheep. But I do know a little bit about cattle. And I have food with a lot of cattle. And cattle, you have to always, there's certain times of year that you got to get them up. And when you're going to wean calves, you've got to sort. You've got to separate out. And the people I'm helping now on the farm, the old boy, he's sort of particular at how he culls out and what he wants to keep. And every once in a while, he don't make up his mind quick enough. And who's operating the gate of which which way they're going. He won't tell them quick enough, and there'll be one get in the wrong pen. And a lot of times you got to let that whole bunch back out to sort through to get that one slip back out. And it takes some time. It's a time process to go through and sort and separate and cut out. But listen to me tonight. I want you to understand, when this day comes and God begins to separate out, ain't nobody going to slip in the wrong gate. Ain't nobody going to slip by His hand and Him let them in somewhere where they ain't supposed to be. I guess maybe His separation line or His cut line will be final. It'll be just, it'll be true, and it'll be the last judgment that there will, and it'll be too late for those that's unprepared. So there's going to be a separation. The sheep from the goats. Goats, it's not, and I'm not going to go into much of this, but sheep, Brother Brad mentioned this the other night about sheep, about they're just sort of a dumb animal, and they just don't, I mean, they have to have a shepherd. There has to be somebody that watches over them. I mean, they can't take care of themselves. They just can't. They just don't have, I don't know how, but they just didn't have the mentality. God just didn't give them the mentality. The goats are they're a little different. They're a little more wild. Goats will eat anything. I mean, literally anything. You can't just fence them in with any fence, because they can climb over the fence. And if they don't climb over it, they're about as bad as a hog. They'll find a hole somewhere to get their head in and go through it or under it, one or the other. A sheep, not as much so. Sheep just more gentle, more docile. They're just sort of calm, laid back a little more. And you may say, but preacher, what do you, listen to me. You may think that you can run from this. You may think that you can get away from that separation day, friend. But I want you to understand, when the Lord stands on His throne, when He sits on His throne and He's gathered all nations of men, I do not believe there will be anybody. This is what the Bible said: every man shall stand before the judgment seat of God. And what that meant, that wasn't just men. I believe that was mankind. Man, woman, boy, girl. You're going to stand before a just and holy God. And listen to me, He's not going to judge you wrongfully. It's not going to be because He was a respect of certain folks over yonder and He's going to give them an easier line to go by. It's not going to be that way. Then the judgment will be final. And I don't know why the Lord woke me up or didn't wake me up, but kept me from resting for just a few minutes with this scripture. But I thought, Lord, that final separation, there will be, and you may think you're trying to scare. I'm not trying to scare you. I want you to understand there is a separation day coming, and you will not escape being separated from the Lord. If you're lost and undone, where's that scripture at? I want to say maybe it might be in, I can't remember if it's in Revelation or Ecclesiastes. I believe it's in Revelation. And there's one in Ecclesiastes as well. Ecclesiastes, I think, says if a tree falls toward the north or toward the south, in other words, every which direction that tree falls, there it's going to lie. I believe in Revelation it says if a man's just, he'll be just still. If he's filthy, he'll be filthy still. If he's holy, he'll be holy still. If he's righteous, he'll be righteous still. I'm telling you, when you leave out of this life or when the Lord comes back, ever what condition your soul's in will be exactly how you'll stand before Him. And so you better get ready for the separation. It's a coming. And I would whole lot rather be a sheep than a goat when that day comes. He'll separate the sheep on the right, the goats on the left. And He'll say to them on the right, enter in. Come, you blessed, enter in. And to those on the left, they'll hear the word, depart, you cursed, into everlasting fire. Somebody said that don't sound like a loving God to me. His love and His mercies extended you tonight, friend. When that day comes, it'll no more be loving and mercy. It'll be judgment from a holy God that you have rejected. and you have turned away, and you chose not to repent and believe in the only begotten Son of God. So he has every right to say, depart from me. You didn't take that way that I give you out. You didn't believe my word. You didn't believe the report. So you have no part with me. If you didn't want me then you're without me through all eternity. It's gonna be, I believe that old song says, there's a sad day coming, and it's for all of those who fail to get right with God. It's for all of those that'll be parted on the left and hear that awful final judgment of, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire. I know tonight you may say, preacher, boy, it would have been good if you would have preached this about 5 or 6 nights ago, but it wasn't on my heart 5 or 6 nights ago. I want somebody to realize the separation is still a coming, and you better get ready for it. The Lord likened his kingdom. Let me finish that right there up. And I believe maybe that might be in the starting of that 25th chapter maybe. But he said it's like 10 virgins. And he said in other words, they all were clean. They all were pure young ladies. Now he likened, I'm sure it was a parable, because he likened it unto 10 virgins. And he said 5 of those virgins were wise and 5 of them virgins were foolish. You know what the fool has said? The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. You know what the wise have done? The wise have sought the Lord. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. But 5 of these virgins were wise and 5 were foolish. And the Bible said they all slumbered and slept while the bridegroom tarried. But at midnight there was a cry made, behold, the bridegroom cometh. In other words, he's a coming back. You better get ready. Here he comes. We see him a coming. You better be a getting ready. Now he's likened his kingdom unto this. The coming is going to be so fast you ain't going to have time to even think about it. No way. But he's likened his kingdom. He said, and all those 10 virgins rose up. They trimmed their lamps. I don't think I need to get into all that tonight. Young folks wouldn't understand it. No way, probably. But there's a big difference. I would say this to you, parents and grandparents. You ought to show your children a little bit about an old coal oil lamp sometime. You ought to just get one down off the shelf and show them how it does. They can understand this scripture a little better. It'll help them to understand it. If you got light one before you trim the wick off. Leave that old black stuff at the top of it and light it and leave your globe on there. Show them what it'll do. And then take one and trim it up pretty good. And light that one and show them what that'll do. And let them see the difference in how that burns. The Bible said they all rose and they trimmed their lamps. And they rose up and those 5 foolish began to look around. If you need to read that, you can. But what I want you to understand is, I believe those 10 virgins were possibly friends. They slumbered and slept and tarried and spent time together. But when the bridegroom came, there was a separation. Them 5 foolish looked around at them 5 wise and they said, we ain't got no oil in our vessel. Give us some of your oil. And those 5 wise said, not so. In other words, we can't. There won't be enough for us and you. But you need to go down there to them that sell and buy for yourself. Somebody said, but y'all preach about it don't cost money. It don't cost money. Isaiah said, come, yea, come, buy wine and milk without money and without price. I'm telling you, lost sinner, what you need is free tonight. But it'll cost you your pride. It'll cost you your carnal thoughts and your carnal mind and your carnal ways, and you'll have to desire him and say, Lord, I don't want to be separated from you. It's not about being separated from moms and dads. It's about being separated from that holy God that loved you enough to send the best heaven had all the way down here to live and walk and to die and to rise for yours and my sins. Give us of your oil. Not so. Can't do it. Lost sinner, if I could, I tell people this, but if it was in our power to save, I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't be in no revival that went on 10 nights. We would advertise very heavily. One night, Tim Eaton, going to save everybody that comes. One night. And if you come, I'm just talking, I'm using this as an analogy. Please don't say that Tim said he could. It's not, but I'm saying if it was in our power to give to you what the Lord done for us, then we would not linger and tarry and labor for 8 or 10 or 12 or 14 or ever how long the meeting might go. We wouldn't do that. We'd just advertise and say, this is the night we're going to save everybody. If you want it, show up. We'll give it to you. And even if we could do that, church, I want you to understand this tonight, and I'll about be done maybe, but even if we did have the power to save, there'd be millions that still wouldn't come. They wouldn't. If tickets was a nickel a piece, if you chose to do something, if tickets was a nickel a piece, the majority of the world say, we don't want that. We don't want that. But they'll pay $100 a ticket to go see somebody play a guitar and sing songs for an hour and a half. Or they'll pay that much to go see a ball game and people knock heads. It's amazing, ain't it? And this is free. Don't cost you a dime. Without money. Without price. And a promise that whosoever will can come and take of the water of life freely. You can have, they said, we can't give you what we've got. You've got to go to him that sells, and you've got to get for yourself. And the Bible said while they went, the bridegroom came. And the door was opened, and those, you go in there and read that when you get home if you want to. I'm pretty sure it's the first part of that 25th chapter. But it says, and those who were ready went in to the marriage. And the door was shut. And then came those foolish virgins, and they began to stand on the outside and knock and say, open unto us. It was too late. Separated forever and forever. There's a separation coming, friend. And you may say, well, Brother Tim, if this is the last night, you've depressed the whole meeting. Oh, I'm not here. For us that's saved, I believe I mentioned this maybe the first part of revival. For us that are saved and truly been born again, that great day has finally come. What we've been waiting for has finally come. And for those that will be separated from, we'll never know. We'll never have no sorrow. We'll never have no pity. We'll never have no compassion toward them anymore. We'll never carry a burden for them anymore. Our eyes will be on the one that loved us enough to give himself for us, and he will be our focus through all eternity. And those that were separated from us will never be a figment of our imagination ever again. I don't know what kind of mind we're going to have up there, but I know it's going to be perfect. And I know somebody said, well, Lord, I don't want to be separated from my loved ones. I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd make sure I wasn't separated from the Lord. I'd make sure when I stood before him that I had that on the inside that was real. I'm not talking about a baptism. I'm not talking about some little name that they write your name on the card. I'm not talking about some little old deal that you go through and you repeat a few words or you shake your head to 3 or 4 questions that somebody might ask you. I'm talking about an experience with the God of heaven that reaches down inside of your soul. And he rolls away that burden of sin. As a young man today at Caney Fork, that I call, a lot of times I call on some of the brothers to open up service. And he's, I don't know, he's in his probably late 20s. I guess somewhere thereabout, and just sort of started a family. They got a little young, and I called on him to open up, and he told his experience, and he said, that's all the Lord gave me this week when I knowed I was going to have to do this, was just tell you my experience, what the Lord done for me. And he said, I know, and I've heard him tell it before, but he said, it's different. He said, I don't tell it a lot because it seems so different than everybody else's. He said, I didn't see nothing great. And he said, I didn't even feel. He said, all I felt was, and this is what Brother Ben, it's probably don't, but he said, it was just gone. That's all he said. He said, I went for several years, not sure. He said, the devil immediately began. I was expecting something, but he said, all I can tell you is I was praying, and all of a sudden, that was gone. And he said, I knew something, but he said, I was just expecting it to be something so much greater. He said, I thought, surely it couldn't be. And he said, I realize now that it was the devil trying to just, trying to persuade, just keep him. This is the thing about it. If the Lord ever saved you, if he's ever touched your heart and rolled that burden of sin away, and the peace has come in, nobody can take that from you. And you'll never, if you're looking for that trouble and that sorrow to ever, and I want somebody to understand, I'm not telling you tonight anybody that they're saved. But when the Lord rolls that burden of sin away, that sorrow and that trouble of being lost and dying and going to hell will never, ever, 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 ever be back. Never. I'm not saying you won't get a burdened heart. I'm not saying you won't get in situations in your life that your heart gets heavy and even your heart may get broken. But it will not be that brokenness of sin, lost and separated from God. It won't be that feeling. It won't be that trouble, that condemnation. So that's, as he was telling his testimony, he said, I went for a long, and he said, then some sister, and I forget how old that he said he was, but it was 4, 5, 6 years that he went maybe, and knowing that something happened, but just not feeling like that was probably it. And he said some sister, I believe it was, one day asked him, has anything ever happened to you? And he said immediately. He said before I could even think, he said the Lord took me right back to that spot. Yeah, Sister Katie's here, so she heard the same. But took me right back to that spot and said, that's it. That's all you're getting. And he said, from then on, he said, from then on, I've tried to stand on it. And he said, it's richer today. Now he's several years down the road. And he's just in the last, probably since our revival, he's beginning to try to step up a little. And he's beginning to try to take hold. You see, he's got something now. When them babies come along, you begin to think about more than just yourself. He knows there's something, he's got something, he needs to be holding this up. And he's coming on Wednesday nights and taking a bigger part. And I'm thankful of that. But you may say, preacher, what are you saying? I'm saying you better get ready for the separation. Because it's a-coming. It's a-coming. And when he separates, it will not be like men. Any of you that, and I mentioned the cattle part a while ago, I used to help a guy years ago, the guy that I worked for in a slaughterhouse. And he started preconditioning calves way back. It's been so many years ago. But I had a horse then, and we would actually work them a lot, and sort through them with them old horses. And this, any of you, if you've never, I know this may seem strange, but an old horse it's got enough cow blood in her. I mean, she's got a nose. Once you get on that calf, she's got a nose for that calf. I don't know if you've ever watched. I'm not telling you my horse needed to be on TV by no means, but she had enough of that. She is bred in that enough that once we got to fooling, once you picked that calf out, I mean, it didn't matter which way I wanted to go. She wasn't letting the calf get by her. You just pretty much, all you need to do is hold on and let her, because she done seen which one you picked out, and she was not going to let it by till it went where it was supposed to go. It is an amazing thing. And you may think, preacher, why would you even? Well, sometimes if you ain't careful, even in doing that with a horse that knows, and that sometimes things happen a little quicker than you think, and there'll be one that'll get by you. There'll be two that maybe slip by you. You always know that sometimes when cattle see the hole, especially when you get in those calves, when they see the hole and one goes, they all want to go, every one of them. And so you've got to sort of stop the stampede at times. But I'm telling you tonight, and you may say, why would you even mention that? Because I want you to understand the judgment of God will not be that way. There'll be folks that'll be thinking, maybe I can slip by. Maybe I'll get under the radar. But the eyes of the Lord will not miss a soul. And if you're lost and undone and you've never been born again, I don't care if your name's been on the Missionary Baptist Church book for 20 years or 50 years. If you ain't got it on the inside, you will not make the cut. You won't slip by. But if you're one of His sheep, and then I'm done. If you're one of His sheep, you know what you need to be doing? You need to be letting people know whose side you're on. I think it was mentioned here earlier in the revival about let the redeemed of the Lord say so. You know, I mentioned about the peace a while ago when the Lord saves an individual. You can have that peace, but the joy won't come till you begin to do something with it. When you begin to tell what the Lord's done for you, when you begin to hold Him up, then that joy begins to flood over in that soul. And if you want to enjoy what He's given to you and what He's done for you, if you want to help somebody else tonight realize that they need to get ready for the separation, you need to be letting people know what He's done for you. The separation times are coming. Where are you going to be? There's no in between. What I read to you didn't say there was some went on the right and there was some went on the left, and there was some just sort of stayed in the middle and floated along. You're either on the right with the sheep or you're on the left with the goats. There is no middle ground, friend. You better make preparations before that day gets here. That's the message that the Lord's laid on our heart. While we've got time to labor and work, whether it's in revival or not, church, that's not. We need to be a laboring and a working every day. Every Sunday we come in those doors, we should pray enough through the week that we come in those doors looking for the Lord. Lord, who are you going to touch today? Who are you going to fill up today? Who are you going to deal with their heart today and draw them to you that they could be saved? Let's mind the Lord while we stand.